But I love to cry, like, the moment I love to cry. Sometimes I'll put on, like, sad movies just so I can feel something.
Tell me that you keep me safe and never let this fade away.
When is the last time you thirst followed or thirst lurked on Instagram?
If you asked me last year, I'd been like, "Oh, Destiny Rogers or Rini," like, the people that I wanna work with, you know? So
Yeah.
I, like, follow, like, people who, like, I really admire as an artist, and also, like, I'm like, "Yo, I feel like we would be really good friends," you know?
Yes, I feel like we don't talk enough about like platonic thirst following because like there are some like girly pops where I'm like, wait, we would be besties.
Making friends, I feel like nowadays a lot of it is through social media, you know? So
Totally.
it's kind of hard to grasp sometimes because everyone just puts like 0.5 seconds of their life on social media, and then when you hang out, then it's like a whole day, you know? So you're like, oh my gosh, either you really mesh or you really don't. But thankfully, I've been really lucky to like make some really good friends, especially in this industry. So
Of course, yeah. And that's perfect because the next one is when the last time you like blocked someone from viewing your story. So like kind of the opposite of that.
fuck. I'm not gonna say who, but there's definitely been times where I've had to mute certain stories. I haven't blocked yet because I don't have the balls to do it just yet. But if you end up unfollowing me, cool, that's fine too. You're doing God's work, you know. But I haven't had the balls to block somebody just yet. But I will say I've muted a couple stories.
Yes. I'm the same way. And I have friends that are like so quick to block, and I'm like, you guys are brave, but I'll get there.
I wonder what their signs are. Scorpio, but I'm a doubles Cancer, so I'm like very just like
Yeah.
I'm very motherly, and like I wouldn't want to do that to my kids, you know.
And the next one is when's the last time you felt hangry?
Dude, today, right now. But that's hella funny that you asked me that because I've been more hangry recently.
Me too.
Like I have like no lead up, you know? It's just like it's like instantly. So I got to work on that. Here's the thing though. Even though I could be toxic in that way, at least I can acknowledge that, cuz like sometimes I'll be like, "Hey, I was kind of bad, huh? I'm so sorry." You know, like at least I can apologize for that, but it does get really bad. Like I'm actually even taken aback by my behaviors recently. And I need to talk to somebody about it because I don't know where this is coming from.
And the last one is when's the last time you missed home?
Right now, I will say I miss home a lot right now because I've been really, really grateful and blessed that my parents are amazing cooks. I just love Vietnamese food so much. And I love the home cooking even more because my parents, I don't know what they do. Like they just really put their whole foot into it. And I just feel the love. I feel love. And I miss that. I miss like waking up and my dad's like, what do you want to eat? Because, you know, growing up, it wasn't like, I'm proud of you, I love you. It's like, what do you want to eat? You know, and that was like their love language.
Oh, that's so beautiful. You know what? That's a perfect segue to the first question that I had. How has being Vietnamese molded your artistry and your work and like kind of how you create?
Yeah. Okay, well, I grew up with two immigrant parents who have never seen anybody like me and their family do something like this. Even when I like moved to Los Angeles and was doing this not full time because I still had like a part-time job, my parents would come visit. My dad would like ask me like, oh, are you going back to school? And I remember just feeling like, oh my God, he doesn't fully believe yet or buy into like what I'm doing. And I just felt like, okay, I just have to work harder. And the thing is, I'm starting to understand is that like my parents came from nothing, you know, like they immigrated here for like a better life. And so their whole life, they've always been very resourceful, very resilient, and like figured things out on their own, you know. I feel like they've taught me to never quit and to never give up. So I was like, I'm not quitting on this dream that I have. And I do feel like my purpose is to like inspire a lot of like Asian boys and girls, Vietnamese boys and girls, to know that this is the path you can follow because I'm doing it. And I know a lot of us feel stuck in like what our parents want us to do. And I'm like an example that like you just have to not care.
Yeah. Oh my God. I feel like that's a lesson you have to like learn and learn again and learn over and over again, especially because, yeah, I think a lot of people really mold themselves through the lens of their parents' validation. And so I think you're doing such a good job at exemplifying what it means to still choose yourself, even at the risk of your parents or even just your community and entirely really not getting it until they do. I know you just came off this like beautiful and just like emotionally gorgeous tour where I think there was just such like an intimacy that you cultivated with your audience, and you were in so many places. And I'd love to know, how do you cultivate like a sense of routine or home for yourself when you're on tour?
Ooh, that is such a good question. I'm still learning how to do that. Sometimes we do 4 shows in a row. 4 shows in a row. Like, one, I'm only singing 30-minute sets. She's doing a whole 75-minute set. Like, you know, it's really draining vocally, emotionally, physically for anybody to be doing like, this is a whole on sport, you know?
Hell yeah.
So in the beginning, it was like, okay, 2 months, we're gonna come off, like me and my boys were like, we're gonna come off this tour being more fit, you know, than we were when we started. 2 weeks in, getting drunk every night.
Yeah.
Eating McDonald's, eating like it was really, really hard to find any type of routine. But I think if any routine that I can give is like, I would take like maybe 5 to 10 minutes in the dressing room to kind of just like take in what I'm doing. It's really scary too to be in front of like a crowd that like has no idea who you are. So it was really important for me to like take this moment to like talk to myself and just tell myself like, you were made to be here, and just go out there and like have fun, you know? Still would cook breakfast at home when we had the chance to. Yeah. And really cool routine that we did, because that gave me a sense of like normalcy and just made me feel like, oh my God, I'm a human, you know? Because eating out every single meal, you don't feel human. You literally feel just like a sack of potatoes, you know?
How have you let yourself be more vulnerable in a way that's comfortable for you?
Well, through music, I love to write about things that like are really real to me. And I feel like I've experienced a lot in life. So I do feel like I have a lot to say. And also just to say it in the voice of a Vietnamese woman, you know? Like, I grew up having anybody that like talked about sex, talked about mental health, talked about loving yourself, talked about insecurities, you know, all of these things, but in the voice of like a Vietnamese woman. It is a really hard thing to be vulnerable for the first time. But I will say each time that you do it, it feels a little bit easier. But I love to cry, like the moment. I love to cry. Sometimes I'll put on like sad movies just so I can feel something. No, literally.
What's the go-to movie or song that's like, oh, I'm gonna cry?
Oh, if I want to sob, probably The Green Mile. But if I'm just like, oh, I want a cute cry, like maybe a Ice Princess, or this is really like getting deep here. Ice Princess or A Cinderella Story with Hilary Duff. For whatever reason, sometimes those rom-coms, like those old like Disney movies, like for whatever reason, I don't know.
Because also I think that time probably signifies a time in your adolescence. And do you feel a sense of connection with like your inner teenager or your inner child? Like, how do you sort of keep that communication with that inner self alive?
I think just having fun.
Yeah.
Like I get to live in my purpose now, and I get to do what I love and what I've always wanted to do since I was like an 8-year-old girl. I remember I had a Britney Spears CD, Baby One More Time, that I literally feel like I just wrecked that CD. I remember I had this little black boombox, and I would just go in the back house and I would listen to the CD over and over again, and I would just pretend that I was Britney Spears. Like my level of obsession with Britney Spears was scary. It's important for me to also remember, even through the tough times, even through the stressful times, to just have fun. Like, life is too short to like stress over the littlest things, you know what I mean? It is what it is. Like, that's my motto with life. It is what it is. And that's really gotten me really far. And it's probably the simplest thing to like think about, but sometimes things are just is what it is.
I would love to know, going viral and having, you know, your music and your work reach so many people and really just become its own thing outside of itself, is there ever any like pressure that accompanies that? Like, after you go viral, is there sort of like this, I need to maintain this, or were you able to sort of like continue to be led by creativity? How did that happen for you?
These are good questions. I feel like I'm feeling it right now. But where I'm at in my career right now is like, yes, like, you know, I've gotten a couple viral songs. My projects are doing really well. I'm getting to perform at these crazy festivals when I used to like dream about, you know. I'm meeting people that I look up to. I get to tour with like one of the biggest R&B acts in the world. Like sometimes I have to like find within like what is next for me, you know, like what is gonna make me happy. Because all those things really don't make you happy, you know, like it's like a momentary like bliss, but it's not like things that are gonna be sustainable. So for me, I think what's next is like learning how to balance everything and learning how to also be okay just being. Because I think sometimes as an artist, like when things are just moving really fast, then when you're in a moment of like things that aren't moving really fast or you're not as busy as you used to be, then you feel like useless. I don't want to always just depend on like the highs of the music and the things that happen within that to like make me happy. So I like to like, you know, be outside. I like to go hiking. I like to like work out. I like to like be with my friends and all these things because it makes me feel a sense of purpose outside of the music.
You just said, I think, is so important for people to hear in any realm of whatever career, especially creatives. But like, I relate so much in the sense of like those like quick highs that you get when something goes right for your whatever creative outlet that you're doing, and how I think it's really sourcing your worth outside of what you create and what you produce, and really sourcing joy from a life fully and presently lived. Like you were mentioning about hiking and being with your friends. And I think if you have a really rich life where you feel worthy and whole and valued outside of what you do, but rather just the experiences and the products of what you are, what you create and what you do from that is informed from like whole and intrinsic joy rather than like trying to get that value from other people. So I think what you said was so important, because I think that's like the cure to like burnout and people really finding themselves lost. So thank you. Totally.
Yeah, you said it way better than I did. Thank you. Like, so good at paraphrasing what I said in a way that just makes sense.
No, you did amazing. And I love that you mentioned about how like in your career you've also like you've met people that you admire that are now admiring you back. And I mean, I saw even like Kalani was shouting you out. And so I'd love to know, this is kind of like a two-part question of like, who were the artists that sort of like awakened your passion? I know you mentioned Britney Spears already too, but like even if it's her, but just like, yeah, who awakened that passion for you? Yeah. And now being part of the R&B scene, where do you see R&B right now? Because there's sort of talks of like it's so different now. Is it dead, or is it, you know, being reborn? Yeah. So like, what's your response to that?
Okay, so I grew up listening to Mia, Brandy, Avant, 112, Escape, like, but even on the like pop realm, I grew up listening to Christina Aguilera, Mariah Carey, you know, she goes between both, but like really like the freaking queens of like the early 2000s. I was in junior high listening to these songs as if I was like in a full-blown relationship, and I've never been in a relationship in my life, but the thing is, I love to romanticize life, and I think that's why I love watching movies about like romance and all of that, and that's what I used to do as a kid, right? So then when I hear it in music form, I think that's why I gravitated towards R&B so much. I don't think R&B is dead at all. I think that R&B right now is like all about collaboration. You know, R&B is about duets. Like, you know, I grew up on like the duet era of like Brandy and Monica. Yeah. Or, God, I can't even think right now, but like so many different iconic collabs, you know? Yeah. And it's really cool now to see it be what it is. Like, you know, Music Soul Child and Dustin Conrad just did a collab together.
Yeah, I just wrote about it. So good.
There's just so many, like, it's cool to see that, like, you know, the old R&B, new R&B kind of collab together and like make something so beautiful.
And the last question that I have is, how are you taking care of yourself right now? What are your tools for keeping your mental health at bay?
Like, I've been pickleballing. I don't know if that's the right verbiage.
Yes.
I've been playing pickleball. I've been doing Legree. I've been walking. I've been hanging out with my dog. to me, I think he's human, and he just has a disorder that, you know, where
Yeah.
he can't walk and he grows a lot of hair. It's a journey, you know. There's days where I'm just, nothing can help me, and that's okay too. I kind of just have to be in my own thing for a little bit. But some days these things really help me and make me feel alive. So I think that's the feeling that I'm always reaching for, is just like, I'm just happy being where I'm at, you know, just happy being. So
Just happy being. I love it.